Welcome to the Cowbell Kingdom Road Reaction Postgame Show, where the Sacramento Kings absolutely drilled the New York Knicks at Madison Square Garden by a final of 124-86. This wasn't even a game. It wasn't even that fun to watch because it was just an absolute butt whooping. Mr. Rui Thomas joining me. What's going on, Rui?
Hello, hello James, and hello everybody else.
There's Rui. Sorry, we didn't switch cameras. All right, so Sacramento Kings are on this brutal 8-game road trip. I think it's 8 games and 13 nights. They get off on the right foot. This is the way you want to start a horrible trip, by getting a much needed win on the road. George Karl is now 3-3 as the head coach of the Sacramento Kings. The Kings are 21-37 overall. This was a good momentum builder going into San Antonio tomorrow night. The Kings have this horrible thing where they go from one place to the next to the next. I mean, flying to New York, back to San Antonio, then to Orlando. This is just absolutely ridiculous, this road trip. And it's in part because there was a snow-out game with the Knicks in, I think it was January. So some definite good things happening in this game. Rui, what stood out to you early in this game?
Well, we got to see the Kings firing on all cylinders. I mean, their offense was outstanding. Taking care of the ball, they only had 6 turnovers through the half. Or no, sorry, they had six at half and 7 through 3 quarters. And they were dishing the ball very well. They had 20 assists through the third quarter. I mean, this game was never close. The Kings beat them in every quarter. They were up double digits early. They held the Knicks to under 30% shooting at the half. The Knicks are just an atrocious team at this point. You know, injury riddled, and they've bought out the rest of the veterans they had. Kings were hot from downtown, hot from the free throw line. The Knicks couldn't defend anything. It was just it wasn't a very good match.
Yeah, that's what I saw. I saw that the Knicks couldn't defend anything. The Kings have this new offensive system, the dribble drive motion offense, where they run right at the rim. And once they got past the Knicks defenders, which wasn't that difficult, not only did the Knicks not have a true goaltender most of the time, except for a little bit by Cole Aldridge, but they didn't have any help defense of any kind. So it was right to the rack for all of the Kings. DeMarcus Cousins dropped in 22 points, grabbed 10 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks, 2 steals. I think he only played 28 minutes. Cousins had missed 2 games with a left ankle sprain and a left hip contusion. So getting Cousins back tonight was a good thing, and getting him to have limited minutes was a good thing. Rudy Gay, 25 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists. He had 13 points in the third quarter, where the Kings really sort of opened this thing up and finished it off. They did allow the Knicks to rally a little bit towards the end of the third, but by that point, you know, I think the Knicks went on a 12-0 run at one point, and they were still down by 32. It's just absolutely horrific to watch. Of those two, Rui, what stood out from DeMarcus Cousins and Rudy Gay to this evening?
Well, DeMarcus set the tone early with his second 3 of the season, and a second against the Knicks, when the Knicks just left him wide open at the top of the key, and he just, switches it in. Very aggressive early. He had 12 points, 5 boards, and 2 blocks in the first quarter. When he did the bulk of his damage, just dominating Lou Amundsen and Cole Aldridge and Bargnani. As for Gay, very aggressive, driving to the paint, very hot from outside as well. He's hitting his jumpers, throwing in and ones. Him, Gay, and McLemore, or Cousins, Gay, and McLemore were the only Kings scorers through most of the first quarter. So, they had it going, and the Knicks definitely had no answer because they have no defenders.
They have no defenders. True dat. No defenders at all for those New York Knicks. All right, so Ben McLemore, he adds 22 at 20 points as well. Excuse me. He had also four assists. He goes 6 of 12 from the field, 2 of 4 from behind the arc, and 6 of 7 from the line in very limited minutes. Again, he only played 23 minutes because of the blowout win. This is something that I love to see. I love to see Ben McLemore going 6 of 7 from the line, because it means he's aggressive. And the Kings are getting out and running in these games against weak opponents, and that's what you have to do. And their half-court game has been pretty good as well. Derek Williams played really well, and Derek Williams is a guy who really kind of struggled to find his way for years and years in the league, and all of a sudden he seems to fit into George Karl's system. He goes 7 of 10 from the field, 17 points in 22 minutes. He's made for this system. He goes 3 of 4 from behind the arc. It's something that Derek Williams really worked on in the offseason is the 3-point shot. And now we're getting to see it kind of come to fruition where he's banging down these open shots left and right, and he's adding a different element that the Kings really need. So, Rui, what are your impressions on Derek Williams?
Williams, yeah, I mean, hiring Carl was a godsend for him because the Kings are finding him open on the break. He's streaking down there for dunks. Yeah, you talked about him working on a shot. It's a lot more evident this season. It's not so off balance, so he can hit those open looks. And we saw him hit a couple off balance shots anyway tonight off some screens, and of course, a few of his patented dunks. His defense is still a work in progress, but he's looking very aggressive, like people have preached to him his entire career, and starting to play with confidence.
Confident and aggressive. That is what you need from Derek Williams. It is not what we've seen. We've seen confidence from him on occasion, but when he's aggressive, he's actually really fun to watch. He can put balls. I mean, his athleticism is top tier. He has an ability to hit these putbacks, which are just crazy because he's already up so high that it's almost like a really quick hammer dunk with two hands. He flies in. So yeah, it's definitely been a good thing that the Sacramento Kings brought in George Karl specifically for Derek Williams. All right, let's get to Nick Stauskas. Nick Stauskas has struggled. We haven't seen much of Stauskas at all lately. He's hardly played. He's played one game during the George Karl era, and I think 3 or 4 DMP CDs, maybe 5 DMPs. Tonight he ties his career high with 15 points. He had a couple of sweet up and unders. He looked confident, and it's not something that we've seen from him in a while. He's much better with the ball in his hand. And again, this dribble drive motion offense seems to really play to his strength as not just a shooter, but a guy who has the ability to go to the rack. On the defensive end, he's still clearly a guy who needs more time. Alexei Shved just tore him to shreds a couple of times. But I think these are things we'll live with, especially for a kid who hasn't played that often, over the last couple of weeks, last couple of months. Okay, and let's get to Omri Caspi as well. Omri Caspi, he scores 14 points on 6 of 10 in 20 minutes, but most of his points came in scrub time. The Kings went to their bench. Not really many of the starters. They had a guy here or there play in the fourth quarter, but their starting core group sat for most of the fourth. Giving guys like Caspi, Ryan Hollins some extended burn, just some guys that maybe like to play extended minutes or need to play extended minutes. All right, let's get to our 3 keys to the game here, Rui, and I think you hit the nail on the head with a couple of these. First up, a team in disarray. Why don't you walk us through that first key that you had, the team in disarray?
Okay, so the Knicks, who only have 12 games to the season, or 12 wins to the season, just total mess. I mean, I think you could tell by Derek Fisher, his expressions tonight. I don't think he smiled once. This season has gone down the tubes quickly in a hurry. They've had a 7-game losing streak, followed by a 10-game losing streak, followed by a 15-game losing streak. And they had an 8-game losing streak before beating the Pistons and the another Eastern Conference team. A couple nights before bombing tonight, and they've completely gutted their roster. I mean, whoever isn't injured, they bought out, or they waived Dallenberg and they bought out Amari Stoudemire, and Carmelo, who's been playing on his bum left knee the entire season, manages to get through the All-Star game and play in the All-Star game before having a surgery and staying out the season, which is a very questionable decision. They can't make buckets, they can't get to the line, they can't force turnovers, and they can't defend. Their player with their highest defensive win shares are Amari Stoudemire, who's completely washed up at this point, and Cole Aldridge, which is very telling.
Yeah, they're not good I mean, they're a glorified D-League team at this point. I mean, half of that roster, you're looking at him, you're like, wait, who is that guy? Who is that guy who just went around Andre Miller and dunked? I'm not quite sure who it was early. I mean, most of their team is sort of Scrubville. I'm surprised they don't feature a few of the young guys a little bit more. You know, Bargnani had a couple of nice little plays, but Brick and everything from the perimeter, just not really an NBA player anymore, even though he's not that old. Yeah, it's kind of a matchup of two guys who are taken really high, who really have never figured out how to sort of play to their draft spot in Bargnani and Derek Williams. All right, let's get to that second key. The second key is bombs away, and I think you killed it with this one. The Kings go 10 of 18 from behind the arc, and they really look good. I like the drawn kick. That's what we saw. We saw it from Cousins. We saw it from Andre Miller. We see it from Ray McCallum. This new style of play is very intriguing, and it allowed Rudy Gay to go 3 of 4, Derek Williams 3 of 5, and Ben McLemore 2 of 4, and I think what Stauskas was 1 of 2 from behind the arc. And so 8 of 18, I mean 10 of 18 is good for the Sacramento Kings. It's something that they've struggled with all season long, and the Knicks are a bad perimeter team. So I think you nailed this one, Rui. Let's skip to the last one, which is setting the tone. Why don't you hit setting the tone?
Well, I think anything less than what happened tonight wouldn't have been acceptable for the Kings. I mean, if the Kings had lost to the Knicks tonight, they should have probably just forfeited the rest of the season because they've been playing so hard with George Karl. A loss would have just been unacceptable. But they played very hard tonight. They were definitely having fun. Drawing so many fouls. It was good, and I think everyone enjoyed it, but not anyone at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, they had Tom Hanks and Kevin Bacon in the stands. It's like, can you get someone that can play? I mean, I remember Kevin Bacon was the coach in the air up there, but he played a little bit too. So maybe the bum knee is still there, but they could have used Kevin Bacon, even though he may not be physically in the best condition after all of his acting on Fox of late. So he's been stabbed a few times in his show on Fox. So maybe he doesn't have NBA game anymore. I'm not sure. All right, so let's get to our MVP of the game tonight. I'm going to go a little different. I think Derek Williams set the table. I think Derek Williams, when he came in the game, he provided this burst of speed and energy, and they just ran all over the Knicks as soon as they got him in the game. And so I'm going to give Derek Williams his 17 points, 7 of 10 from the field, 3 of 4 from long range. I'm going to give him my MVP on the night. What do you got for me, Rui Thomas?
I have to go with Derek Williams as well. He had 14
What?
of the. Yes, this is Derek Williams' night in New York. But wait, well, so he had 14 points at the half. I mean, he definitely provided that spark to get the Kings out way ahead. And he was playing power forward most of the night. We saw him matched up against Munson, and we saw him guard a couple wings. He didn't get completely exposed tonight on defense, but his shot looked great. He definitely had bounce to his step. We saw a couple of those dunks. We saw him get swatted on a dunk, and then a play right after, he made a really nice jumper, and he was definitely locked in from downtown. He needed it. Tied his season high, and his Kings tied his Kings high with three-pointers tonight. So definitely good for Derek going forward.
All right, so Rui, we've got some injury news. Darren Collison, of course, he was examined yesterday in Philadelphia by Dr. William Myers, and he underwent a surgery this morning on a core muscle tear somewhere, I think, in the abdomen area. We're not quite sure what exactly happened there. It went from a hip flexor to a torn core muscle. And basically he's out for 6 weeks, which coincides with basically the rest of the season. So it's unlikely that we will see Darren Collison again this season in the Sacramento Kings uniform. It's kind of a bummer. I was kind of hoping to see him get in and learn George Karl's system a little bit. I would assume he's going to be on crutches or something like that going forward, but these things happen. and he should be healed up in plenty of time for this summer, plenty of time to get his gaming gear for next season. And so that's one new bit of news. Second bit of news, Vlade Divac is joining the Sacramento Kings franchise as a vice president to both basketball and I think business side ops, franchise ops, which is a little different. But he, according to Aileen Voisin, is going to be on this trip. He's going to meet the Kings in San Antonio and spend some really good quality time with the Kings brass, with the Kings players, with George Karl. And this is a good move. It's a very exciting move for a lot of Kings fans. They all love Vlade Divac. He has wanted to get back into the NBA game for a little while after spending plenty of time away from the game and doing things in Slovakia with Slovenia with their Olympic team. But it's good to see a legend rejoining the franchise, and not just in name. He'll be here in face quite a bit in Sacramento from what we're hearing. So, Rui, do you have any final thoughts on tonight?
Again, those must win by the Kings. Great start to the road trip, 8 games in 11 nights. They'll have to fly to San Antonio tomorrow, or they're going to fly to San Antonio tonight to play them tomorrow, which is going to be a bummer. But it seems like the Stars kept their legs primarily fresh, and Reggie Evans didn't even get in the game. Carl Landry came in pretty late, so they should be pretty healthy going into tomorrow.
All right, yes. So as Rui said, you're going to get a heavy dose of the Cowbell Kingdom Road Reaction postgame show. Almost every day it seems like we have a game. 3 sets of back-to-backs in this stretch, including tomorrow night, another early start as the Kings take on the San Antonio Spurs, Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, Greg Popovich, the Hall of Fame tandem, trio, quadruples, whatever you want to call them, who like to win world championships all the time and are marching towards another playoff berth, despite having most of their players, basically being of Social Security age. So that is going to do it for this edition of the Cowbell Kingdom Road Reaction postgame show. The Sacramento Kings moved to 21-37 on the season, 3-3 under George Karl. Absolutely club the New York Knicks by a final of 124-86. We will see you tomorrow night. Thanks for tuning in.